Hello?
Yeah, Osifo, we can hear you, but can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right, could you tell us then, what is the current development about Momodu's death?
Hello? Hello, the line is breaking. I can't hear clearly. Hello, what did you say?
Okay, let's give it another shot. How about now? Can you hear it?
Hello?
All right, I'm afraid we'll have to just let that go and sort that out and subsequently go back to it. Osifo, unfortunately, we couldn't get across, but we should reestablish that subsequently and get a word or two from him. But then, let's flip to this next scenario. There should be a report now, which is to set the scene of what we're focusing on next. Well, this morning we'll be continuing our focus on the midterm assessment, but the National Assembly, yes, the 7th National Assembly, which we looked at some part of it yesterday, and then we'll be going over to Abuja studios if they're ready for us. Zachary Mohammed joins us from there. Morning, Mr. Mohammed. Yes, indeed, taking a look at that, there are those who think that this 7th Assembly is synonymous with feud, disagreement with the executive arm of government. What do you think about that? Don't tell me he can't hear us too. Morning, Mr. Mohammed. Can you hear?
Yeah, good morning.
Okay. Talking about the 7th National Assembly, yes, indeed, your midterm assessment, you all had that briefing not long ago. But, you know, there are some people who just readily just say that they can remember one thing. The constant disagreement between the National Assembly, chief of the House of Representatives, with the executive arm of government. What do you think of that perception?
Thank you so much, Chamberlain. I think before answering this question, there are certain facts that we have to be very, very familiar with, or we refresh our memories. When we came into democratic governance in 1999, we had a situation where, because of the newness of the legislature in the body politic, Nigerians have seen, continue to see the legislators as intruders. And of course, unfortunately, then the executive was always particular about the legislature, thinking that they are a bunch of intruders in governance. Whereas, if we have to run democracy, a presidential system that we have chosen to run, the three arms of government are a tripod. And of course, constant agreement or disagreement does not really mean that we don't mean well for governance. I'm sure that if we have to just be a rubber stamp house, then there's no basis for the legislature to exist in the first place. Don't forget, we are a product of election. In the executive arm of government, we have just two people who are elected, the president and the vice president. All others are just support staff. So to that extent, we believe that what the 7th Assembly has tried to do is to firm up on our independence as an arm of government. But at the same time, we use the time to collaborate with the executive. Each time Mr. President brings any issue that has broad impact on Nigerians and is positive, we won't oppose it, definitely. We will definitely continue to back it up, especially the war on terror and the security situation in the country. We have done that as much as possible. Same for money bills that have come over time, too.
Okay, well, interestingly, I'm not sure that Nigerians really want the assembly to be a rubber stamp, but where the challenge will be that if maybe in the course of going about your responsibilities, it impedes the execution of what the three arms of government are there for the people, then of course you know that there will be some challenge, because the impression that some analysts have is that the National Assembly appears to be overbearing on the executive arm of government, to the extent that they even cut the line of responsibility or the reporting line to the executive by some of their agencies, asking to report to the National Assembly which they think should not be the case?
Yeah, I want to let you realize this, Chamberlain. Most times, if we bring up any issue on the floor of the House, bordering on the performances of the executive, we talk to ourselves most times. If members bring up issues that impede on the performances or the leverage the Constitution has given Mr. President or the executive arm of government to perform, and others are asking that we interfere with it, we talk to ourselves to say, no, this is our limit, and we cannot go above this. And as much as possible, the presiding officers have guided us in that regard. The House Committee on Rules and Business have been handy to tell us exactly where our powers stop. So it is not true that we overstretch our bounds each time. But that's why I started with giving you the background, that because the legislature is the youngest arm of government, everybody is tempted to say they have come again. But of course, if we must run the presidential system of government that we have adopted as a country, then every arm of government must do its duty. And to that extent, I always see it as horrid blackmail each time those who are handling the executive have to talk about the legislature, particularly the House of Representatives. We are 360 members elected on the basis of a process that was in recent time acclaimed to be one of the fairest. And that is the true representation of the Nigerian people in terms of interest. We have a 4-year term here, and we must, within the 4-year term, in accordance with our legislative agenda, pursue these issues very vigorously. Nigeria's situation is a country that is in the emergency ward. So all hands must be on deck to get the patients revived so that he will join other committee of nations. We are a country suffering from infrastructural deficit. And these issues must definitely be taken in tow.
Well, anyway, yesterday was a good moment for, well, virtually all members, as you got a good mark, especially from Professor Eliagu. Now, when you say Nigerians would say they have come again, perhaps let's start to look at some of these issues they talked about. One is the zero allocation given to the Securities and Exchange Commission. To Nigerians, how come, for instance, the sin of just one individual will affect the entire nation? Do you think the National Assembly, the House of Representatives, so to speak, did well in that regard?
I think we've explained this oftentimes, and I won't hesitate to explain again. Of course, the dramas that visited the SEC issue, all of us are familiar with it. Accusation, counter-accusation on the chairman and, of course, his deputy by the Director General of SEC. And the House says, okay, gentlemen, these two of you have no moral grounds to sit on this committee any longer. It should be handed over to somebody else. And in the course of the public hearings that have been done, stakeholders were invited. And the issues of even the qualification of the Director General in terms of the cognitive experience was brought up. And on the basis of that, the recommendation was that, in the first place, that approval of our occupation of that office was not done in accordance with the laid-down procedures or the excellent laws guiding SEC. And on the basis of that, we advised that, in the first place, this person is not qualified to be here. And that resolution was not obeyed. How come? This same House passed a resolution when we had the doctrine of necessity to make a president functional, to solve the quagmire in the country. That resolution was obeyed. But on all the other issues, the resolution of the National Assembly has been advisory. We shouldn't have double standards in terms of the way we take on law. Law is law, and of course, obedience of law It's sacrosanct. And that's what we said, okay, for the SEC issue,